A bacon was found dead inside of his cell inside of HMP Fossway in Glenparva, Leicestershire. Now, I didn't actually report on this at the time it actually happened, but this was around about 16 months ago. But it has just come to light again when I've been researching some different stories, and the reason it's came to light is because there has been a coroner's report on an inquest into his death. Now I am going to go through the case, go through the whole lot as I normally do, people. Give you the full details because stuff like this you will never see on the mainstream media. Yes, you might see it on online articles, but how many people go to have a look on online articles these days? The majority of people have a flick on the phone. They'll go onto YouTube, and most importantly, they'll come on this channel to find out the prison stories, and you get the true fact right here on this channel. So the bacon in question is Nigel Fecky. So it says an ex-offender killed himself after being bullied and attacked by other inmates at a prisoner, a coroner has said. Now, HMP Fossway was or is a relatively new prison. 2023, which I can still say for a prison is a new prison compared to the majority of them, which are old Victorian shitholes. HMP Fossway in Glenparva was designed to hold 1,700 inmates, and 700 of them were bacons. And what they tried to do was, in this category C prison, was to have them all mixed in together because it was meant to be a state-of-the-art prison where no prisoners judged each other. But I will get into the facts of what happened here, and it happened to the majority of them. And they ended up being segregated and they put them on different housing blocks. So I'm going to go through the coroner or what has been said, but like I've just said, they're trying to say it, well, it is down to the bullying that he received. But what can you expect if you put these type of offenders in with offenders that aren't in for that type of crime and they look down on these bacons? So Nigel Fecky was declared dead in his cell in HMP Fossway, Leicestershire, on the 23rd of September 2024 after repeatedly being bullied by fellow prisoners who found out about his offending. Assistant Coroner Diane Hockin, who oversaw Fecky's inquest, which concluded on the 23rd of January 2026, said she was concerned bacons were not segregated from other prisoners at the jail at the time. Hawkins said Fecky was primarily let down by the custodial system and warned more inmates could die unless the Ministry of Justice took action to keep vulnerable prisoners safe. Well, I'll tell you what I've got to say on that. It says primarily let down by the custodial system. They've been let down by themselves for committing these type of offences. If they weren't bacons and didn't end up in prison, then they wouldn't be let down by the system, would they? So, let's decide on this one. Who has been let down? Did they let themselves down by being bacons? Or were they let down by the custodial system who tried to make this prison into a prison that housed all of the inmates together to try and integrate them, to try and make them all better prisoners? The Ministry of Justice said it would carefully consider the coroner's findings, some of which were detailed in a Prevention of Future Deaths reports published on Monday. The report said at the time 700 of the 1,700 HMP Fossway inmates were Bacons. Obviously it doesn't say that in the report, but that's what I'm referring to them as, because it says ex-offenders, and if I don't use the prison slang term bacon, you know what happens, it flags up and it will be took down. The hearing was told that the Category C jail opened in 2023 and was designed to be run on an offence-neutral basis, with all prisoners mixing freely on the wings and in communal areas. So it says, like I said earlier on, offence-neutral basis, meaning all prisoners were mixed in so that no one judged each other, which obviously is never going to happen, and they are trying to do this at the moment in a lot of the Category C prisons, and that is why there is more bacons being offed, which a lot of the viewers that watch my channel for the bacon bashers take joy from it. Do I take a bit from it myself? We all know we do. So Fecky himself had been moved 6 times to get away from abusive prisoners, the report said. The 64-year-old from Nottinghamshire was subjected to bullying, verbal and physical abuse while in prison and had items stolen from his cell. It detailed that Fecky frequently reported incidents, but the coroner said some were not thoroughly investigated due to lack of supporting CCTV. An attack in March 2024, when another prisoner threw a kettle of boiling water at Fecky, was not reported to the police until he himself wrote to the police months later. Hockey said Fecky had made it clear to prison and healthcare staff that he could not cope in HMP Fossway and was asked to be moved to an open prison. He felt anxious and unsafe. He felt that his calls for help were being ignored. What about the calls for help for the victims, the poor young little ones that he was trying to groom? Fecky's sister wrote to the prison governor to express her concerns about his safety shortly before his death, but received no response, the report added. Fecky's inquest was told many mainstream prisoners at HMP Fossway held strong views they did not wish to share their living space with men convicted of being bacons, which you wouldn't. Why would you want to do your time next to someone or share a cell or be forced to live with another person? If you're in prison, yeah, say you're an armed robber or whatever. A lot of people watching the channel will say, well, you shouldn't be an armed robber either. But them type of prisoners, or even a dealer or whatever, if you're in prison for them type of offences, even a shoplifter, and then you're next to somebody who's done something serious to a minor. You're somebody who's a parent yourself, you're a dad, you've got little ones, you're forced to share a cell with somebody that has done things to little ones, and you can't get this out of your mind, and one day you attack that person. It's obviously going to happen. That's what happens in prison. They were both vocal and physical in their resistance to integrated living. The data at Fossway suggested that a change was required as figures for self-harm and self-isolation were beginning to emerge. The report said it was not possible to keep offences secret for most part because although the prisoners had no access to internet in their cells, they only had to ask someone on the phone or use one of the ones that have themselves. HMP Fossway has probably got more phones than it has bacons. So it doesn't take a genius to find out how they're getting this information. All they have to do is Google that person who they might have to either share a cell with or share a wing with. In March last year, after Fecky's death, the 700 bacons at HMP Fossway were transferred to a segregated wing at the jail. In her report, Hawkins said evidence in the inquest indicated that ex-offender prisoners were scared and felt like they couldn't leave their cells and that they were vulnerable to direct bullying or verbal abuse, getting a taste of their own medicine. Imagine 700 bacons. How many victims of them bacons little ones, minors. Imagine how many of them felt like they couldn't come out of their houses or they couldn't come out of their bedrooms because of what the Bacons had done to them. Now they are getting a taste of their own medicine, but they're getting protected. Where was the protection for the little ones when these fucking wrong'uns were doing what they were doing to them? The coroner has said the Ministry of Justice must respond to her report by the 25th of March. In response, the Ministry of Justice said it would not meet the deadline. HMP Fosway is run by Serco, which has also been sent a copy of the report. The Prison and Probation Ombudsman is also investigating Fecky's death. Now, I didn't go into exactly what he was in for at the beginning, but Fecky, sorry, 2 seconds. Yeah, where's the dad? I'll just get it up because I did see it earlier on in a different report, so I will obviously tell you exactly what he was in for. He was jailed in January 2024 after grooming, I'll say that quick so it doesn't flash up as well, and attempting to meet a person he believed was a 14-year-old minor. He travelled from his home in Nottinghamshire to Gwent, Wales after making arrangements to meet her. He was arrested at Caerphilly railway station by officers from Gwent Police after they were tipped off by members of an online bacon hunting team, as well as attempting to do this to another individual which he believed was 13. And these were ongoing things that this horrid, despicable man was doing. So at the age of 64, he's doing these type of crimes. He's trying to do this to minors. Who knows what else he's done? Only him himself. He was no longer here. But this horrid man, which I will say, yes, he's deceased, he's no longer here. But how many minors are now going to be saved from trauma because people like him are no longer here? Bacons, which I always refer to them as on this channel, and yes, sometimes people say, how many times do you want to see a bacon? Because it's a bacon basher channel. Another one bites the dust. And like I said previously, when Ian Watkins, one of the biggest bacons, was offed inside of HMP Wakefield, I did say about the copycat killings. And believe you me, 2026, there is going to be a whole lot more people because, like I've just said, this year they are I've heard from people inside of prison that they are doing this more. They are now actually doing it as we speak. They are mixing them in together without the other prisoners knowing. So when they find out, what do you think is going to happen? Individuals or bacons like this one that I've just spoke about, like Fecky, bacons like Fecky are getting tortured inside of prison, and the prisoners who obviously don't want to end up with a life sentence for murder have other ways of doing it. And what do you think has happened in this case? They have been bullying him, they've been torturing him, they've been griefing him out of the windows on a night time. And I've heard this myself inside of prison when prisoners have been, I'll give you an instance when I was in HMP Franklin, down the healthcare department. When you're down healthcare in Franklin, you can look out the windows and you can see the bacons. Although you can't get to them, you can shout at them. And down the segregation unit, the bacons are obviously down the block as well, and so are the normal prisoners. But you can't physically get to them, but you can get to them by verbal communication. So if someone's been getting verbally griefed constantly every night, telling them to do that to themselves, that is exactly what happens, and that is probably what has happened in the case of Nigel Fecky. They'll have been griefing him on a night time out the window shouting, you might as well do away with yourself because you're a bacon. And this is just simply true facts. What I'm bringing you on here, and like I said, I've heard it firsthand because when I've been down healthcare before in Frankland Prison, because when you're on the normal wings and you get taken down to healthcare for a doctor's appointment, you can see them through the window. Like I said, you can't physically get to them, but you can verbally abuse them. And that is exactly what happens. And that is one way of often the bacons without getting a life sentence, getting them to off themselves. And that is exactly what happens in prison. And you will not hear that on any other channel apart from Behind Bars TV, where I bring you the straight facts and the truth. And I will not bring you anything on this channel about anybody unless it is true facts. And obviously this has been a coroner's case that has just happened, and that is why I'm bringing you the info now, because obviously it happened about 16 months ago, but we don't know exactly what happened. When the coroner's case comes out, then it's time to bring you the news on the channel. But there's a whole load of more content coming, people, so do stay tuned because I have got loads of content coming. There will be no missing weeks from now on. I am back on top form, people, and there is loads of content. So if you are still enjoying the content, remember to comment, like and subscribe. Also share it across your Facebook or your social media channels so more people become aware and they can watch the channel as well. But more importantly, as I always do when I finish off, watch what you're doing, people, and stay safe.